broadcast network, AFTERBUZZ TV. Over 20 million weekly downloads in over 150 countries, and your number one source for after-show entertainment. AFTERBUZZ TV, the destination for TV superfans. Producing after-shows for over 300 of your favorite TV shows. Interviewing celebrities and showrunners. And bringing you behind-the-scenes exclusives. All thanks to E! Entertainment's Maria Menounos, producer Kevin Undergaro, and internet leader Akamai. Now, let the buzz begin!
Feel it. Bring it in.
Oh, yeah.
All right, guys. How's it going tonight? We are here talking Vinyl Season 1, Episode 2, called Yesterday Once More. So dramatic. I'm Lauren Salaun. You can find me everywhere on Twitter and everywhere else online at Lauren Salaun.
You have a Tumblr, right?
You know what I do, but I'm not super active on
But you can find her inactive Tumblr.
Super active on MySpace, yeah, for sure.
Friendster, you have that?
Friendster, all of those.
Nobody ever responds to my stuff on MySpace, but you can find me on Twitter, where I am primarily at Steve Kaufmann. That's Kaufmann.
Yeah, no MySpace for me, but you can find me on Twitter or Instagram at Laila Sadny.
Hey everyone, Jeff Graham here. Find me on Twitter at Jeffrey C. Graham, and you can find me on Instagram at Jeffrey Crane Graham.
So many grams.
Still haven't.
All the time.
Still haven't. Is
haven't.
Insta Jeff Graham available?
Well, it might be. We'll see.
We're gonna have to do some research on this because
Yeah.
I feel like there's just too much of
There's
a
too
Graham
much.
feel like-
sandwich that we have to do.
I feel like one of our listeners may have just taken it last
I
week,
know, just a troll.
just
Yeah.
to cyber
Hold
squat.
it hostage, and you have to pay a ransom for it. All right, so all y'all out there in internet land, be sure that you are subscribed to us on YouTube, youtube.com/AfterBuzzTV. You can also catch all of our after shows on iTunes and SoundCloud as well. So, guys, initial impressions of this week's episode.
I thought this episode was a little slow
Yeah?
compared to what I think the season's headed towards. Whereas I think by the end of this season, we're going to get pace-wise like a machine gun.
Right.
In comparison, this week was a Civil War musket.
Yeah,
Still okay. Still want to keep watching.
Still does some damage,
Like,
but not
still
as
a gun.
effective.
Yeah, it was. Well, I enjoyed the backstory that you finally learn more about the characters, and
Exactly.
I agree with you though. I think like it's gonna this series is gonna like the episode was pretty slow, and the rest are gonna be kind of crazy.
What's interesting for me is I didn't love the backstory. I was hoping the flashbacks would provide us more insight, actually. And I feel like we didn't learn... I don't feel like much was illuminated by seeing them. I mean, we saw Devin and Richie meet, but, like, I kind of wanted to see something a little more interesting. I don't know what you guys think, but...
Maybe I wanted it to... Maybe it's because I watched too much Arrow, but I wanted it to echo what was happening. That like a point counterpoint with the flashback. That
Right.
didn't seem.
There's like an intention,
But I think-
a narrative intention besides just.
But I think there's a lot of information we need moving forward with this show
Yeah, I
that they
agree.
just had to throw into this episode.
Right,
Yeah.
and I feel like this episode definitely, I mean, it's such a different experience watching 2 hours of a pilot to now watching just 1 full hour
Yeah.
of a show. And I do feel like, you know, we were working through a lot and the pace could have been a little quicker, but this episode really was a big turning point for how the rest of the season's going to go, you know, with them calling off the deal, Richie calling off the deal, and, you know, all this stuff kind of getting the balls rolling, if you will.
I like how we find more out about Devin too,
Yeah.
and like that she's gonna have like an actual character and like a voice on the show.
Yeah.
Definitely. And so it starts with the meeting with the Germans. They're in the boardroom yet again. The Germans, okay.
Oh, the
They're
Germans.
so annoying. Anyone else?
I mean,
They're
You're like,
they're
so this is how you do business in America. I'm like,
yes,
they're
this is
such
how we
cartoons.
do.
They're a little cartoony. I feel like they're purposefully cartoony.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
I didn't have a problem with their like lack of fleshed outness, but I won't say that again. In retrospect, that's
No, but what I did enjoy about them is that the show's not about those Germans. So they wanted to make those Germans the kind of annoying, kind of stupid people that would be buying this company.
Yeah,
exactly.
And then you have to hold their hand every way and keep blowing smoke. We're working with Zeppelin. We're gonna get Zeppelin. We're right there.
Yeah. Oh, traffic. Like
keeping
that
the
stuff.
alive.
And it makes you like Richie, who has so far been mostly a jackass.
A little bit.
Makes you like him a lot more.
Oh yeah.
He's like, you Nazi pricks.
I just
awesome.
love how Richie was like just off the rails, like literally like
I like him too.
I like him crazy.
Yeah, me too.
But I think that's gonna make us feel a certain type of way moving forward. That the majority of the pilot, the 2-hour pilot, like he was not drinking and on a bender.
Right.
And now that he's on a bender, we're like, man, I really like what that guy's up to.
Yeah.
And we're like, that guy who has 2 children and should be clean and sober.
Yeah.
I hope it just doesn't last too long. And I feel like that was just the catalyst to get him back into that creative space and feeling inspired and all that.
As an interesting note, a lot of reviewers did not like the coked out Richie, which is interesting. Like, I've been reading some just reviews and other feedback, and a lot of people were saying that it was just way too much. And I was like, well, first of all, you're watching a Martin Scorsese Terence Winter collaboration. Like, what were you expecting?
Not to mention about 70s rock and roll.
About 70s rock and roll, and he was sober for years, and he was like his first like relapse.
His first bender.
Hopefully
He
his
just
last.
killed
but...
somebody.
I mean,
Helped
come
someone
on.
kill someone. There's a lot of major life things happening for this guy.
But I loved it. I thought it was really fun to see like the elevated Richie. And I agree with you, Lauren. I hope that's not the whole season.
Right.
But if we got like another episode 8 relapse and he came back, I would be totally okay with that.
Yeah, for sure. Did anyone else think that he wasn't nearly as dirty enough when he went back into the office?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Well, yeah.
Like one scratch.
How did he clean up so well? He doesn't seem like in his right mind to be like, oh, I'm a little.
Well, I guess he shook some of it off at that movie theater.
Doing his moves.
Just doing some moves.
Enter the Dragon over and over and over again.
Yeah.
That, oh gosh, that was ridiculous. I love that we saw those karate moves come back later, and he's like knocking out all of his partners, essentially.
Yeah, he's a scary guy.
In general, this episode was very funny. Like, not to get ahead, but I thought I was laughing a lot, which was fun.
And poor Ray Romano, his character Zach.
Oh,
bad for
Yeah,
him.
let's talk about him a little bit. I mean, obviously he gets a chop straight to the nose. Hey, I feel ya, bro. And so we see with the like disintegration of this deal, Richie had already cut a check to David Geffen, and so they've already everyone has counted on this deal going through, and they're like already spending money they don't have, like with Zach and with his wife and his daughter for her bat mitzvah and stuff like that. Like just the whole scene is just money the whole time, and he's like, oh crap, and that obviously is hitting him, and we've seen him in the pilot essentially being kind of more of a comic relief character, and I think this episode gave him a little more dimension.
Yeah, it's great to see him with the dramatic role that we don't normally get to see Ray Romano in. But God, I just feel so bad for him in his life. He's just Richie, just of all the people to kind of get like hit in the nose, like he's the last person I wanted to see get it.
Right?
Yeah.
I'm calling it now. I think Ray Romano's going to get a Best Supporting Actor nod at the Emmys next
I'd buy
year.
that.
Yeah.
I think he's like the secret MVP weapon of the show.
Yeah.
Really funny, but like also dramatic and.
Is it the Emmys that it's per episode? Like you have to get nominated for one episode?
Oh, maybe.
Pretty sure that's the Emmys, and then it's the Golden Globes that you just.
There's a supporting.
It's the whole
actor.
series.
Okay, cool.
So,
Well, we'll see.
so moving forward, we need to all pick the episode we think Ray Romano is going to get nominated.
Yes.
All right,
I'm with
maybe
you, Steve.
Too soon to tell, I guess. But even when he's out in the car, he has to obviously cover up what he's like. Oh, I got rear-ended. This is what's happening.
Yeah, but I mean, he was so close to taking his life.
Exactly. So he goes out there to deal with this situation. He's like, crap, there is way too much happening. Let's just,
right. Like it's kind of exactly. It's kind of easy just to like turn the car on and take some pills.
Right. So that when I was initially watching it, that didn't hit me as hard as because they're all moving so fast. They're such hustlers, and obviously this is a very dramatic thing that's going on for all of them. But I was like, wait a second, he wasn't really thinking of that, but.
I know. I was literally screaming at the television when I was watching it last. I was like, "No! Like, what are you doing?"
Even before the pills, when he went in, exactly. And he didn't turn the engine over, but when he turned his car on,
That's what I thought.
I was like,
Yeah.
is he's just because that's like the classic trope.
Right.
With the
That's
garage
what
clothes.
when that started, I was like, no, he's not. He's not that bad.
Because at first
He's
I
not
thought
that
he was
type of
just like,
character.
sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but
okay.
I was just gonna say at first I thought he was just sedating himself, kind of like,
Right.
you know, because they're all doing drugs.
Right, and we saw him pop some pills earlier in the episode, so we're like, oh, he's just
He's in
keeping
pain.
that high. Treating the nose. There we go.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
But
I was like, there's no way they're going to kill that character off that soon.
no. I mean, I don't think we thought it with
You never know.
Dice Clay either, right?
Yeah.
But apparently, we see him later in flashbacks.
Well,
right?
Or
Sorry,
he's
totally.
listed on IMDb, right?
He's listed on IMDb. Someone commented that like we'll see him later. My guess is that we'll see him in flashbacks.
Mine
Right,
too.
Yeah, we've
I
got
guess that's really the only way.
episodes.
Wait, doesn't he have a twin brother? We
No.
were saying? Okay.
Well, he was improvising a line in the pilot, directed by Scorsese. So imagine Andrew Dice Clay being directed by Scorsese
gosh.
and improvising a line that's not written about a twin brother. In an attempt to get
To
cast,
write himself more
in
episodes.
an
That's
attempt to be
awesome.
on the show more.
I love that it's
Amazing.
just like a premise for a sketch on SNL.
Yeah,
That's so
totally,
funny.
totally.
That's so funny.
I'm gonna die. But before you kill me, tell my twin brother. My identical twin brother.
He's a fascinating person and character. You should meet him.
He's crazier than me.
That actually reminds me of apparently in the old school Bonanza days, whenever they brought on a new character to those like Western TV shows, the first scene they'd shoot is their death scene. So if they ever get too uppity about their contracts,
That's brilliant.
they could just, nope, we already shot
we
your death
already
scene.
got it,
That's
yeah.
the first thing we shot.
That's awesome.
So Richie is obviously trying to revitalize the label. He just called off this major deal. Now they're kind of like, oh shit, what are we doing? And pretty much fires everyone in A&R, but gives them 2 weeks. He's like, you're all fired, but you have 2 weeks to
He kind of
keep your
demotes
job.
them to interns.
Except
Yeah.
for the guy he did throw
Except
out.
the guy-
That was my
Stuck.
favorite scene. That was my favorite scene of the whole episode.
That was hilarious. I loved that. And so, he obviously lights a fire under everyone's asses for that. And I did really like, because last week in the pilot, we see him really touching back to that time when he kind of stuff was going really well and he was kind of starting. So everything was really growing and climbing for him and his career. And he was so inspired and motivated and like into the music. And obviously he's lost that now. But when he's meeting with his A&R team, he's like, think about, it's about the songs. Think about a song like that you've gotten stuck in your head or that's made you feel something, like giving you goosebumps, stuff like that. So it's really, he's trying to kind of light that fire in all his people too and get that passion going
And he
again.
needs to, because they're like kind of just not doing anything, and just kind of lost the whole. It's like sometimes when you do that for work, you can lose that whole passion on why you started to begin with.
Or sometimes it was never your passion. And that
too.
became a job where it's like, oh, I could figure out the zeros and ones
That too.
and make money.
Or they have crappy bands that they have to work with and they're just kind of stuck with what they've got and they're not hustling, taking the low-hanging fruit instead of really hustling for the good stuff.
Also, the other scene that I really enjoyed was the scene with Jamie and Richie.
Same.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was good.
She's my fave.
Yeah.
She's such a little spitfire. I love it. And
She
I'm excited because I'm sure we'll see her move into, like, it reminds me a lot of Mad Men, that situation, you know,
Totally.
with Peggy. And I feel like she's really going to assert herself and kind of, be one of the kick-ass women on that team.
Yeah.
And
How about when
and
she
music.
fired back to the reception?
Oh, that was awesome.
Oh man, that was a lot. It was great. I liked it too.
Yeah.
But yeah.
That was great.
Yes.
The receptionist was just trying to throw her under the bus,
I
you
know.
know? She's a hater.
Yeah.
I guess that receptionist doesn't use any of her drugs.
Yeah. I guess
No,
not.
obviously
Or-
she's straight.
Yeah, obviously the receptionist is completely sober, or she's going to go through relapse starting immediately.
Cut off.
And one of the things that I liked about this scene, because we saw it last week in the pilot with them in the jet and with the girls around, and where Jamie's like, okay, so you want me to, that's how you get ahead as a girl here, apparently. And he's like, it's crossed my mind, but no.
Yeah.
And so we're seeing this now twice where obviously like girls are basically like throwing themselves at him and he's turning it down, which I like. I really like his and Devin's chemistry and relationship. As messed up as it is, especially right now, I really like that bond, and I trust him. I feel like a sucker. I feel like it's gonna break my heart too.
I feel like there's something in their past where he did.
Well, did you guys recognize the flashback scene when they first get together? The girl that Richie was originally with was her friend, the girl that shows up at the party.
Ingrid.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So now we know a little bit of why there was like some awkward tension in the first episode.
Exactly.
But I do like Richie and Devin's
so
chemistry.
let's talk about Devin a bit and Devin and Richie. So Devin, this whole episode is very like, sad, neglected wife, mistreated, that sort.
She doesn't even know where he is.
One-sided. Yeah, she doesn't know where he is. She's pissed because last she saw him, he was wasted and just stormed out of the house. And so she, we see a few different, I think 3 different flashbacks with her, and her navigating this whole day, taking her kids out to get pancakes, and I kind of love how one of her kids was like, "Can you make me Lucky Charms?"
I know.
How old are you? How do you make cereal? Like, I think you're old enough to make yourself a bowl of cereal.
I know.
Yeah.
I wondered if there was like
so funny.
If there was a specific reason they chose Lucky Charms. Like, I don't know when Lucky Charms came on the scene, but if it was like that year, so I don't know. It just seemed like a very specific reference.
Fair. I think mid-70s is when sugary cereal became more popular than I'm guessing. I have no idea.
Right.
I would assume mid-70s would be when sugary cereal.
Leave a comment. Let us know. When did sugar cereal come into the
Lucky Charms.
Why do you think Lucky Charms was significant? I mean, my thought is just that she's so overwhelmed and kind of not happy with where her life is right now, that Lucky Charms, not a good breakfast to have, not a good thing to start the day with, more like a dessert, and she can't even be bothered to pour a bowl of cereal,
right? And
so I think that's kind of what it is. Not only is it a bad option anyway, but she's like, nah, I don't even have time for this.
Right.
Not that that's necessarily a bad reflection of her, but that's just where where her mind
and
is
that her
at.
Also that her kid assumes that her kid just assumes
how helpless her kids are.
her kid assumes mom just feeds me though. That he doesn't even know how.
Right.
That mom prepares all the food. Mom makes
that's her
mom makes the
job.
pasta.
That's
she
her
makes
job.
the Lucky Charms.
Well, I think that the significance of that is that's kind of her job now, and how her life used to be and how it is now, and she's just looking back how did I get here?
Yeah,
right.
For sure. So let's talk about the flashback. So we see the first one, her and Richie meeting, which super
Love
hot.
it. Love it.
I was like, whoa.
Their chemistry is great.
Yeah, the chemistry was awesome. They don't say any words, meet up in the bathroom for some steamy
Start
sex.
with a little BDSM at the beginning with that slap, huh?
Yeah. Whew. My goodness. And we see that sort of chemistry between the two of them, I think, throughout. In other flashbacks, kind of in present day, but then he shuts her down. Then the next flashback we have, sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself, but that scene kind of ends and she's looking in the mirror and it's this super passionate, intense flashback, and then it cuts to her looking in the mirror in the bathroom at the restaurant, and it's just such a different image, and she's such a different person, and it's that sort of parallel where she's like, shit, things have changed.
There were 2 or 3 great match cuts in this episode. There was the Coke and the powdered sugar on the pancakes.
Yep.
I still think, even though I have some problems narratively with this show, editing, production, all that is just so great, which has been really fun to watch.
Speaking of the editing stuff, we'll jump to that real quick. I did like how they cut in the music in this episode more than... the lighter thing I think we talked about last episode just felt too long. Just
I feel like the music felt more natural on this episode. And not
the
so
transitions
forced.
felt right, but they're still, because we've accepted that you can just kind of cut to cut to cut. So to have a transition to try to give you that through is really good. And there were a lot of these great match cuts here, and it also, this show still does a lot of the interstitial songs,
right? Yeah,
that just
I like those.
That the audio, that essentially the artist that's in the song, that's the interstitial, is just some guy playing the song,
right?
Yeah, not a character in the show.
It felt like they flowed more in this episod than last week,
right? And even
just
the scene when they first met, they were seeing Velvet Underground, and they didn't show too much of it. It was just I felt like it was just the right amount of the band.
Definitely. Yeah, sorry to jump ahead, Lauren, but...
Oh, no. It's okay. Yeah, so the other flashbacks are pretty much, she is partying with... Devin and Richie are partying with, Andy Warhol, Lou Reed, all these cool people back in the day. Andy Warhol was, the man.
New York City.
Yeah, being in the factory and, with him and his people, that was, you were cool.
She was like the
You're
it girl.
Yeah,
You know?
But-
and he was like, he clearly, or Andy, you know, she was one of his favorites too.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, I'm, you know, your new boyfriend. Like, I'm getting jealous. All this stuff, which again shows she was a pretty, you know,
She's a partier.
hot piece back in the day. And now she's, you know, feeling like this like mom who does nothing. You know.
We did get some insight from a commenter about Ingrid's character. We were talking last week.
Oh, yes, we did.
She's based on like
Nico?
Nico,
Yes.
who is like a famous Warhol superstar. I don't know a ton about the Andy Warhol history and all that lore, but I'm going to read more about it now that he's a character on the show. But she is like pretty directly pulled from who is the singer in the Velvet Underground. Do you know anything about that, Layla?
A little bit of the Velvet Underground, but I don't really know her character too much.
Yeah,
Like,
I think
who
she
she's
was
based
just.
on.
I think she's just like an iconic version of Andy Warhol's like.
She
girls.
looked like the way she looked very iconic Andy Warhol-ish.
Yeah.
So
For sure. So that was interesting.
That's
Thank you. That came from Natalie Suto. We appreciate
I
the
think she
comment.
tweeted that to me too,
Cool.
which was cool to see. I love how they mix like real historical people and bands and activities with obviously totally fictional ones. It's a lot of fun
For sure.
to have that in there. So we've got Devin's partying, cool girl, super, you know, stylish past. She was a muse of Andy Warhol's, all this stuff, and then, you know, that comparison to their current day situation. And then that last one when she's pregnant and they're talking about their future and they're just so in love and like so cute and like, you know, he's like, I'll buy you the biggest house with a pond and stuff so you can fish or whatever. I liked seeing those, and you know,
I always like seeing the hippies or the beatniks have money and kids.
Right.
And immediately go to Greenwich Village and just be like, that's a thing I did. It's a phase. This is who I really am on the inside.
yeah, right.
I do hope. Right now, I feel like current timeline Devin and Richie is just like so sad, and like it should be. But I hope, like, I kind of don't want Devin to fall into that trope of like sad, lonely wife. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like in like The Sopranos or something, or
Yeah.
like you know,
And
Breaking
all
Bad,
right.
stuff like that.
There
Exactly.
seems to be more to this, but there seems to be more, and there seems to be. I may have predicted this last week. There had to have been a blow up
Yeah.
in their past with Richie on a bender.
Right.
That she's a saint for staying with him.
Because there's a reason he's sober.
Well, if you catch like in
Something
the
happened.
in the first couple minutes of the episode, she's on the phone with Zach, and he said, "Did he hit you?"
yes.
So I would start thinking, did he say, like, was there something with
but
that?
she
going
seemed
on?
so shocked by him asking.
Yeah,
that.
that was a confusing thing. That I thought that
Because she even said, "Why would you ask that?" So it's either he's drawing a conclusion.
Right.
he thinks that he hit beats
Yeah,
her.
I'm wondering.
I was just gonna say the way I read it was he had just hit everyone in the A&R office.
Yeah.
Was
But
the
was
way I
that
read it.
I thought that was before.
No, that happened after this call.
Did it? I
Because he
can't
was
remember.
he was in the boardroom calling to find out where Richie was.
Right.
Yeah.
So he hadn't karate chopped everyone.
Yeah,
So
'cause
that
like-
would make a lot more sense to me.
But-
That's what kind of pushed him over.
He hit all
But
of us.
immediately after that, he did hit everybody.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
So there must be a streak of violence going on.
Yeah.
We saw
We'll
a lot of
see.
it.
Interesting. Huh.
Yeah. I mean, but I did really like, you know, we see her, obviously, I agree, I don't want to see her being this, like, sad, pathetic, kind of, like, pity me sort of character. But we do see that kind of love again when she realizes that he could potentially be hurt or dead or anything, and he comes home and he's just torn up.
I think that she's too strong. I think she's too strong of a person to become that like poor me wife.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you kind of see that, and you see when she's there, and he finally does come home, and the detective comes to the door, and she just knows him so well, and she's just like totally has his back 150%. You know, so I think she's gonna help him.
Yeah.
More than
Yeah. I also think she's going to take a pretty big stand on the so you didn't sell the label that was bleeding money?
Right.
I'm excited to see how she handles
Yeah,
that.
she's gonna flip because we've seen her get a little sassy.
I like her
yeah.
fire. I like when
Yeah.
she's fire.
Yeah.
That's what I want to see
Yeah.
more of.
I like it a lot. But then, you know, we've seen all this, speaking of fire, all this fire with them in the flashbacks, and then she puts the moves on him a little bit, and he's like, oh, I'm tired, you know, so.
It's like, it's Olivia Wilde, man. Come on.
I mean, a building fell on him.
Yeah, that's true. He's
building did
coming
fall.
down. That's true.
But
If
it's
you-
Olivia Wilde.
I'm with you, but I'm with you But if you ever had an excuse,
Yeah.
that's a pretty good
A
excuse.
building, yeah.
He's
fair
like,
enough.
honey, a building fell on me last night.
Like literally 23 hours ago, a building fell on me. The whole building.
Yeah.
And when she wakes up in the morning, he is not there, and he has gone to meet with Lester Grimes, who I thought we would see a lot. I thought we would
know.
see him
Yeah,
in this episode, aside from just like, hey, I need to talk to you.
Cliffhanger.
yeah,
right?
Yeah.
Hey,
Tease.
hey, I'm gonna use you more, kid.
Yeah,
What-
exactly.
But with what?
I
What are
know.
we? Huh? You didn't even apologize. What? I just.
It was a little cheap, I thought.
Yeah.
It felt a little like grabby.
But I think they also need to keep that relationship contentious.
I'm glad it was there.
Because I think what they're doing is they're setting up like 12 contentious relationships to make them all just like snap at each other in one episode, and then we're all just like blow our mind holes.
Right.
I'm curious to see how that conversation goes, because, you know, Lester blames him a bit for not bringing him with him back in the day, but we know that Richie just loved him, you know, and thought he was such an incredible artist. So
Richie did try, though. I
Right,
mean,
right.
he should have probably gone about things a different way, though.
and we didn't hear him speak, did we?
No.
That's because I was waiting. I was like, what does he sound like? What does he
know.
sound like?
We heard him
No.
speak
Did he
in
the
the.
first episode, right?
Not
but
since.
not
Not-
since the throat punch.
We heard him in the
The throat punch.
what?
Yeah.
We heard him speak briefly in the preview from last week. That we ultimately are now learning was a preview for the whole series.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because there was a lot of stuff in that preview from last week that's in the preview for this week. That'll probably be in the preview for next week.
Little sneaks.
The
I've-
musket versus the machine gun.
Literally,
Yeah.
because you see the machine gun in those previews, and we're like, last week was a knife.
Yeah.
This week's a musket.
Yeah.
If we keep escalating, I'm on board. But I feel like next week will also be a musket, and then the week after that will also be a musket, and then one day it'll just be there will be no progression.
Right.
It'll just be a machine gun,
Yeah.
and it'll be wonderful.
See all these gun metaphors for how
The
episodes are.
pacing,
Yeah,
yeah.
the pacing. I like it.
What do you guys think Lester Grimes, his character, like, what do you think he's going to be doing on the show? Because I think he has a pretty big role on the show. I've seen a lot of him.
He's either
see.
Promoted
we saw him
with the
tuning up
show.
a guitar, so
Yeah.
I think he's gonna give him a contract, or I stand by my prediction that he's gonna have him come on and consult,
Like, or maybe even produce.
and produce.
Right. I think he's going to get more than. I mean, we don't know what his musical situation or voice situation is now. I'm assuming
still play guitar,
he
though.
can still figure it out and do something with what he's got. But I think it'll be more than just like come be an artist on
Yeah, I
the
feel like
label. I
it's-
think
Yeah.
it'll be some sort of important position.
It is interesting because my two favorite plots are Jamie and the Nasty Bits, as well as Lester, and we got so little of that this episode,
know,
which
I
bummed me
know.
out. And
Yeah.
that's what I want to see more of. I hope.
Yeah.
The nasty bits.
The
they're
nasty
so,
bits.
I love how bad they are and how everyone's like, wait, what?
That
guys
was
suck.
hilarious, that scene when they're preparing them for the showcase, and
Yeah.
he's like, what is this?
You know
Like,
what, though?
Richie wants to listen to these guys.
Was I supposed to side with Julie or Jamie though? Because I thought they kind of sounded good. Is that
They sounded
sounded
better.
better.
They sounded better than the concert where people just
right?
like couldn't even let them finish.
Like, because my prediction with that is that they will play the Kinks and it won't be them. Whereas, like, Jamie's intuition was right versus Julie's
Yeah,
intuition.
I think that they're setting that up, and I also think Richie will say that.
Yeah.
I think Richie will see them and like straight up step onto the stage, be like, "Why are you doing that, man?"
This isn't you. Listen to your soul.
And this, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but their sound, like the kind of grungy punk sound, wasn't super common back then, too.
No,
So-
Not,
No.
not a 70s too
yeah,
much.
so it's a new sound anyway that
Right.
can sometimes just sound bad, but
Yeah.
but so it's unfamiliar as well. So.
Yeah.
It's like the 2006 version of dubstep when that was like when Skrillex was new,
That's a good
I-
comparison.
and now it's everywhere.
Although my take on dubstep is like the lead up until the drop, I actually really enjoy,
And then the drop.
and then the drop, and then it's just like aliens screaming
You don't
at
like
me.
the drop,
Crazy.
and then the drop just gets nuts.
I've heard it's
And then-
Transformers having sex is what I've heard dubstep,
It's like,
That's a, yeah.
which I think is hilarious.
Aliens coming out. Hilarious.
That is really
but I think
funny.
it's called dub smash or like whatever they're doing up top. Like I really, where they're like mashing 2 or 3 different songs together. I actually really enjoy. It's when the drop happens that I'm like, what? I'm in a horror movie now. I'm in a post-apocalyptic robotic horror movie.
Like being electrocuted.
Yeah.
I do like how they've dealt with race a few times. In this episode, I think specifically, you know, with when they're in the boardroom, they're like, what? She would know who the guy is just because she's black, you know? And so we see these little things kind of, these like little flickers of racism like pop up, and then somebody shut it down.
Right.
Which I like. And then same thing with Zach and his car accident, and his wife's like, oh, was it a colored, you know? And he's like, what are you talking about? Like,
I like that they don't go too much into that. Or like,
although that's
that was common.
Yeah, that's common. That's common casual racism.
Exactly. But I do like how they've got like a counterpart character who kind of cuts it off and is like, no, what are you talking about?
That's,
you know?
It's symbolic of the time. It's like feels very true because it's like different perspectives. We're not there yet. It's not like we're there yet. Now, but
no, I think
people were trying to switch over a little bit, like to not be so like, and that was why.
Because I've heard a similar, like I grew up in a rather suburban climate, and I've heard similar statements.
Right.
Within the last like 5 years.
Right.
Like people are still saying that.
Yeah.
We've come a long way, but we still have a long way to come.
Right.
For sure.
Right.
Yeah.
But I do like how they've, dealt just in those little instances dealt with it. Exactly.
Yeah.
All right, guys. I mean, I feel like we've hit everything. Is there any little moments that we've missed here? I don't think so. We got some good music yet again.
Yeah. So I wanted to talk about the music a little bit.
Let's do it. So we got some Bowie. We got some CCR.
The Stones.
We do. We did have this. I know. I like that. I'm like, okay, Nick, getting your
feel like
songs in there.
Under my thumb.
I don't know. I think they had to pay a lot for the Stones.
Yeah, totally.
It's interesting. One thing I do like is how the characters have a very clear worldview on which rock they like and which they don't. How they just like smash the Tull record, the Jeff Tull record.
And when Chicago's playing, they're like, who even buys this crap?
The funny thing is, like, I'm guilty of loving like that tame classic rock. Like, I like love Chicago, and I kind of like Jethro Tull. I would not fit in at American Century.
Hey, it's okay.
It's okay.
You can like whatever you want.
This is a safe space.
Okay. It's a safe space.
I wouldn't have been safe at American Century, but
you'd have got thrown out.
I would have gotten punched. I would have gotten Bruce Lee to the nose by a coked out
Richie.
Yeah.
Well, because by '73 that wasn't selling.
Right. Yeah. True.
Like that really soft mellow rock that would have sold in the late '60s. Like '73, that's the path that led them to bleeding out. So they're right to say no. Let's find.
For sure.
If we can be the label that finds the new sound.
Did you guys
we can make that money.
Yeah. Did you guys see anything? I think it's kind of cool with the music how they are putting it out there and promoting it. Like I saw something that there's a Spotify playlist now for vinyl.
Yes,
which is cool.
Oh, sick.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
Check it out.
It makes our research easy too.
Yeah. And they did so with. I mean, obviously this episode was called "Yesterday Once More," which is a Carpenter song, which is what. So in Devin, we didn't really talk about this when she's driving.
Yeah.
And she like has this weird vision, like imagines herself as Karen Carpenter.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
What did we think of that? I thought it was a little weird.
Me too. It was a little out there.
Yeah.
Too far.
I feel like we're getting close to seeing kind of Devin like.
Well, do you think she was like a artist, like wanted to be an artist, maybe?
I had a problem with this whole scene because I didn't buy that she would leave her kids.
Yeah.
Like I was like, that feels like a misstep.
Well,
I only because she's dealing with a lot too. That I understood the idea that whereas Richie went to drugs, she went to just straight up escapism.
Right.
Where it's like, I'm just going to drive away and listen to the song that's probably on the radio and have this complete fantasy.
I don't think she did it intentionally.
No.
It was just like she got so in the zone and was like, what is my life? Oh my gosh, I'm having a panic attack. And then just pieced out. It was like,
right. And then just felt awful. And she doesn't medicate herself. So
that is the most chill panic attack I've ever seen.
Right, she's like,
no value or anything.
She literally I know. Just drives around as Karen Carpenter in her panic attack.
No, that's what I do too.
So relaxing.
I mean, come on.
Yeah, just put on the Carpenters and chill.
Even if it was a mistake, it was a weird step for me because like Richie and Devin act like their kids are everything and their personal life means so much and like that's the stakes. And then she just like forgot him.
She totally forgot him. I mean, I'm sure she felt awful, but it's something I don't think it's something she does
No,
regularly.
it's not a little.
Sometimes
It's
kids-
not a little weird to me.
Sometimes you
but-
lose your kids.
Right. Sometimes you just lose your
Moms
kids.
go
I-
crazy
Sorry.
sometimes, you know?
Although that would scare me as a child, because the one
Yes.
thing I was always told as a child is if you're ever lost, we will not leave without you. So to see that scene, I just remember thinking like,
Little baby Steve.
Flashbacks.
I went to get gas. No, you didn't.
You never came back.
Shut it, kid. She pays off the guy.
That was funny.
Ooh, embarrassing.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was kind of the big song of the episode yesterday. Once more, was very reflective. Obviously, not only is it the title of the episode, it's in the song. She has a flashback about it. Lots of flashbacks about, or not a flashback, but a vision about it, a hallucination. I don't know.
Yeah.
And then we've got all those flashbacks about her life. So very, very fitting. All right, guys, shall we dive into some predictions?
let's give it a try.
Yeah.
Your AfterBuzz TV predictions.
It's new.
We got the brief one.
I like the brief one.
That was exhilarating.
We still got the strobe, and we got the whole
Yeah,
effect.
we're
It was
still
just like,
strobing.
all right,
A little stare.
all right, get to your predictions, guys.
All right, guys, what do we think? Let's do it. I mean, I'll dive in. I don't have any grand ones. I think we're gonna get. Gosh, I really want to see. I want to see Richie tell Devin about the murder.
The murder.
Yeah, I think.
I don't know if we'll see it next week. I don't really think we will, but I really want to see that. I think they're going to have some sort of kind of face-off in some way. And I think that Lester is going to kind of negotiate in that conversation. However that goes, he's going to have some, some things to say to Richie. That's kind of my...
Interesting.
I'm really looking forward to the Lester Richie scene
Yeah.
where they actually talk to each other and he apologizes and all that stuff. What I think will come from that is he'll say, I don't care about the money anymore. Caring about the money is what led to all of your problems. What I want is to find the brand new sound and really care about music again. And you're a part of something. You're a part of something that I've never heard before, because
Right.
like essentially rap in 73 is what he's trying to get on the pulse of. And I think Lester might hold that over Richie's head a little bit.
Right, yeah.
Have some
Yeah,
leverage.
totally.
Yeah, have some
Totally.
leverage of like, well, okay,
Yeah.
give me an album, I'll produce some stuff for you, and we can rebuild this relationship.
Make me a
He needs
partner.
them. He needs
Yeah,
them.
like-
He needs
And
them.
I want to see that from
Yeah.
Lester. I want
Yeah.
him to kind of
Yeah.
play his cards
instead
in
of
that way.
instead of immediately forgive,
Yes.
which I don't think he'll do.
Right.
Agreed.
I think that to go kind of back to what you were saying about Devin and Richie, I think that he is going to tell her about the murder, and she's totally gonna like have his back, help him get out of it, or just kind of it's gonna lead into like a more intertwined story with her kind of
Having
I
my
hope-
role.
knowing and I don't
Yeah.
know, being not an accomplice,
Accomplice,
but like
but I hear
you
what
know
you're
what I'm
saying,
saying? Like
yeah.
that's my prediction.
I also think that the murder is MacGuffin. Like that it will
In terms
ultimately not lead to anything. But
You
it'll be the doomsday the entire time. Of like he
Yeah.
might go
It'll be
down
Like
for
it's
murder.
always
We'll
over
always
our
be-
heads.
He might go down for murder, and
Right.
then at the end of the season we find out like, no, that guy dealt with a lot of bad people.
Right. But it'll still maybe weigh on his conscience guiltily in the second season. In terms of predictions, it's tough. I don't feel like we were given that much to make new predictions. Like, I was kind of hoping I'd be at a place where I could like have some more predictions. One thing I know I do want to see potentially change. I felt like these flashbacks didn't give us that much insight. I guess we saw more of Richie and Devin's relationship, but I feel like we already kind of knew that they loved each other.
Right.
So I hope we see, like, a lot of these flashback shows, like Orange is the New Black, I feel like I don't know if you guys watch that show, but the flashbacks will, like, blow your mind and, like, give you so much insight. I hope we see flashbacks that, like, drop our jaws, you know?
That'd be nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That'd be cool.
So we'll see.
Alrighty, guys, that was a solid episode 2. Thank you guys all out there for tuning in and for chatting with us in the chat and on Twitter and wherever else you've been talking to us. You can find us here next week, every Monday, talking about vinyl. Once again, I'm Lauren Salaun. You can find me all over the internet, not on MySpace, unfortunately, at Lauren Salaun. That's LaurenSalaun. All right, and go, everybody.
You guys can find me on Twitter at Steve Kaufmann. That is KAUFMANN. I'm also on Instagram, KAUFMANN, just a little space in between. I only use it on Thursdays.
Ooh, Thursdays. Okay, so you can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Laila Sadny.
What's up, y'all? I shouldn't say what's up because I'm about to leave, but you can find me, Jeff Graham, on Instagram at Jeffrey Crane Graham. That's Twitter. And then you can find me on Instagram at Jeffrey Crane Graham. I just killed it, y'all. That was terrible.
Right, guys.
What an awful way for me to end the show. Tune in next week and I'll do better, I promise.
Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you guys later.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.